America wants you. Hi, Catherine here. I want to take a slight detour from what I normally record about. I end my videos with a call of action telling you to write your senators, your representatives. This time, however, I want to ask you, why don't you become your senator or representative? Okay, that may be a bit of a stretch at this point, but there are numerous positions lower than this which do have some ability to make changes which could be very much within your reach. Let's start at the local level. Every town has some elected figure to make decisions for the town. If yours does not have a mayor per se, there's still someone. Yes, some very small villages will not have their own mayor because they're actually incorporated in a larger area with other villages. There will still be at least some representative for your village. I cannot give an exact breakdown for every town, village, county, state, etc. There are far too many varieties. For example, when my father ran for his village elections in New Hampshire, they don't have a mayor. Instead, the people voted on 3 selectmen who served for 3 years. Each year, one would take their turn as the head selectman. Where I grew up in New Jersey, it was more like what we learned in social studies in grade school. There is a mayor and district members who remain in office for 4 years. Some positions are full-time jobs, like city mayors. However, most positions in smaller towns are part-time, with the elected officials still holding a regular day job. While a selectman, my father still worked a 9-to-5 job. Granted, his village was less than 1,000 residents. In my college town, one of my college professors was mayor, and that was for a town of about 20,000 people. Another mayor in the same town had been the editor, or was at that time the editor of the regional newspaper. It is quite doable while working a regular job. Depending on your town or village, you will probably be expected to attend weekly meetings with the rest of the staff. Often these are open to the public. These are the meetings that you may see on the news, where townspeople get up and they complain about what is going on locally, and it gets loud and raucous. Yeah, very often, these meetings are pretty quiet. It is usually the town staff going over necessary decisions. Then the floor is open to the public if they have any concerns or new business. The general public does not get to vote at these meetings. The town officials do. In the past, I've been at some where it doesn't get loud, but you have that one resident who wants to complain about everything. But it's still pretty reasonable. Also, even if you're not on the town council, it's still a really good idea to go just to see if the people that you elected are actually defending your interests. As a town official, you may also be called upon to give speeches at schools, help with field trips visiting government offices, maybe even be asked to cut the ribbon at a grand opening. Pretty nifty. More importantly, your job will be to make decisions which affect your town. No, this is not the same as president or even senator or representative, but it can still massively change what is happening at your town, what affects you directly at the local level. We hear about the federal budget and all the money that needs to be cut or the need to increase spending for certain programs. Towns have their own budgets and go through pretty much the same exact issues. If you serve on your town board, you have the chance to vote on these budgets and hopefully make improvements to your town. This is only the local level. There are also county and state governments. Currently, I am registered to vote in Buffalo, so I will use New York as my example to break down the state and local government a little bit. It goes far more in depth than what I'm about to cover. I'm just trying to give you a superficial view. Like the nation has the president, the state has the governor. Unlike the president, there are no term limits for the governor. In theory, a candidate could be elected every 4 years and serve 8, 10, 12 terms. In practice, though, this is not likely. Terry Branstad was governor of Iowa for 22 years. He was elected to the position 6 times, though not consecutively. The next highest serving governors have all topped off at 4 terms. Yes, this is more than the president, but reasonable. They're not in for life. The governor then has a lieutenant governor, kind of like a state's vice president. Next down the line are state senators. These are not the ones who meet in Washington, D.C., but instead in the state capitol. In the case of New York, 63 state senators represent their districts and meet in Albany. There are some restrictions based on age, citizenship, residency. To run for any of these state positions, one must be a citizen. To vote, one must be a citizen. So this is the most basic requirement for government in America. For governor or lieutenant governor, the candidate has to be at least 30 years old and have lived in the state for the 5 years immediately preceding the elections. For state senator, a candidate only has to be 18 years old. But again, a resident of the state for 5 years immediately preceding the elections, and a resident of the district they are running for 12 months prior to the elections. Then, of course, there is the local level. In the case of Buffalo, it is a city. It is quite a large city, so there are 9 districts with council members who work with the mayor. If you are not the type who wants to be in the spotlight, there are other positions which help the towns run, like town clerk. Their job is to keep track of all the town records, including birth, death, municipal codes, zoning, etc. They do have the power and the authority to sign off on certain issues that come up. This is also still an elected official. In cities, counties, state levels, there are also other positions like district attorney and sheriff. These tend to have other requirements that go with them, like you need to be a lawyer to run for district attorney being the key word there. That said, not every local government demands their sheriff be a law enforcement officer, so that could be an option where you live. Check it out. The point is, you can run for office. Depending on the office and state, there are age restrictions. Like pointed out before, New York demands the governor and lieutenant governor are at least 30 years and resided in the state for a certain amount of time. Most town positions only require the candidate be at least 18 or 21 and reside a year, approximately, in the town or district. The biggest initial restriction will realistically be time, not so much money. You need to check the requirements for your office, but to be listed on local ballots, you usually need to get a petition signed with the minimum number of signatures. For town council, it's not unusual to see it be you need 25 signatures. For the Senate in New York, you need 2,500 signatures, so considerably more, but that's also a much bigger position. Realistically, you could get 25 signatures in a few evenings by walking around your town and knocking on residents' doors. You're not asking them to vote for you, you're asking them if your name can be on the ballot. And most will say, okay, sure, whatever, I don't care. And they'll sign off. Really easy. Yes, this does force you to put yourself out there, and that is not for everyone. However, if you want to make a difference, this is a good way to start. Money does play a role in larger elections. Sorry, it's how the world works. In cities, it is typical for candidates to pay for commercials on television or the internet. Flyers can cost quite a bit depending on how many you need to print. That said, there are online printing services which can keep the prices reasonable if you do not have a print shop near you. If you have a printer at home, you could print out some basic flyers on your home computer. These will be pretty basic. But for a small village, that might be a viable option. Big thing is make your presence known. Yes, if you are dealing with a city or a state level or a county level, then odds are you need to do fundraising because not everyone has that kind of money in their pockets. So again, you do not necessarily have to be rich to apply for these government positions or to apply to be elected for these government positions. But you will have to fundraise, and that's going to take some networking. Maybe just an online GoFundMe campaign, whatever. But you will have to dredge up the money. I'm focusing more on the local, really local elections where even somebody poor technically can afford to do this. It's just a bit of a headache. I know. I talk a big game. Why don't I do this? Well, I'm taking steps to be able to. I have other restrictions which many of you watching do not. I work for the US government as a contractor in Germany, but my status here, I am finally eligible for dual German citizenship. My language is at a level high enough to take the citizenship test. I've taken multiple practice tests and I've passed it just fine, so I'm not worried about passing. I'm on my way for citizenship. However, my German level's not quite high enough to meet with voters and run for office. I'm working on that. And I am getting better every day. I've also only lived in my village for 5 years, and half that time, well, it was pretty much shut down for Corona. However, I have a goal of being able to run for office in the next 4 years when the local elections run again. Fingers crossed, I make it. In the meantime, I've made my presence known with various projects and I'm getting to know more of the locals. I'm getting more integrated. Point is, you can do this. Again, if you're hurting financially, it is more difficult. That said, there are often small stipends for working in local office to help compensate the elected officials. Often, small village selectmen in New England are paid about $4,000 per year. Okay, that's really not much. In my college town of 20,000 residents, the councilmen are currently paid $15,000 per year. That's a little over $1,000 a month. This is definitely not enough to give up a 9-to-5 job, but it does help offset the cost of your duties while in office. The pay, of course, increases in larger cities. In large cities, counties, and the state level, however, this is no longer a part-time position in the evenings and on weekends. It's a full-time job. That's a whole nother issue. Do you like the idea and are thinking of running for office? Do it. It doesn't hurt you to try. Worst case is you lose the election. Yes, that hurts the pride and the self-esteem a bit. Nobody likes to lose, but you still tried. However, I would advise you to do first a few things. 1, attend local government meetings regularly. You need to see how the meetings work, and you need to see the issues that are being dealt with at them. If you go in cold and actually do get elected and then don't know how the government actually runs, it's going to be a really painful learning curve. So get familiar with your local government. 2, visit your town clerk and get access to the past meetings minutes. Every meeting that has occurred in your village should be archived. The minutes from those meetings should be archived. These can help you see what has been done in your town in the past, what has worked, what may have not worked. You also get a better idea of what was important to the residents, because very often that is recorded in the minutes too when they speak up and they have issues. 3, ask your town clerk for the specifics on how to apply to run. Every town, village, etc. has their own requirements, such as the minimum age, the signatures needed to be on the ballot. Now, we look at the federal government, and if you take the average age of the senators, the representatives, the president, etc., most of his cabinet, the average age in federal government is about 60. That does not mean it's only an older person's job. There have been plenty of 18-year-olds who have made it into local offices. I'm in my mid-40s. However, I'd still be very happy to see younger people in office. Get new blood in there. Help it refresh. Right now, it's stagnating with old ideas. We need new ideas. The youths also complain that they're not represented in government, that nobody hears their voice. Be that youth that jumps up and say, hey, listen to us. We have issues. We have concerns, and you're not dealing with them. Go for it. 4, sit down and set out clear goals if you win. First, these will be your platform when you run for office. These issues are what you will tell the voters you plan to do. Please do not lie to the voters. Set reasonable goals that can be achieved with support from the rest of the town council. 5, play fair. Bring some honesty and dignity to the elections. It can be easy to play dirty and mudsling and attack. Look at our federal elections. Many of the candidates like to shout about how their competition is scum. Do not get dragged into this. Instead, focus on the issues and what could be improved and where things may have gone wrong before without just constantly saying it's so-and-so's fault, it's so-and-so's fault, it's so-and-so's fault, and I'm better than everybody. We know who we're referring to. Yes, this is a tough battle with so many who want to play dirty. However, fair play needs to start somewhere to take hold. 6, talk to people. See what your neighbors think about how the town is currently run. Listen to their concerns. Many have clear opinions on what they think is wrong in their town. Maybe you can find the solutions to some of their problems. 7, get involved. If you are not ready to run for office, that's fine. How about getting involved in local activities? You can volunteer your time to establish groups. You can approach your elected officials about implementing new activities. Some of them really like to say about how they help new activities begin. It looks very good for them for re-election. Please keep in mind the get involved aspect. As I saw in my village, people complain there are no activities. They have tons of ideas, but they expect someone else to do something about it. I went to our mayor and I said, I want to start a youth group. I was very frustrated about a lot of the graffiti happening in our village and how the youths just had too much time on their hands and nothing to do with it. I had to make it very clear that I was offering my time to run this group and I was not simply complaining he should do something. He said too many people would come to him and complain. But when he asked them to help, they didn't have time, not even for a few hours once a week. He actually said, thank you so much for actually offering a suggestion of what we could do and offering to actually help make it happen. This is what we need to see more of. It is so easy for us to just sit back and complain the world's going to hell. The government's ruining everything. Ugh, hate it. It is not as easy for us to change that, but we can. It takes a few individuals who want to change and are willing to work for it. Think about it. How did we get to this point with our government? There were individuals who wanted to see less legislation which restricted their businesses in order to protect the environment. There were individuals who were upset their large corporations had to pay so much in taxes. There were individuals who were incensed that women were legally able to get abortions. These individuals, they went out, they lobbied, they protested, they ran for office, and now they are in positions of power to make the changes they wanted to see. It works both ways. We had legislation protecting the environment, raising corporate tax, and giving the women the choice to abort because people lobbied, protested, and ran for office. Once they were in positions of power, change was made to help the people. Do not simply sit back and complain that, well, one person can't change anything. You're right. One person cannot. However, it takes one person to gather up more people who can work together to make change. If no one tries, nothing will change. That is guaranteed. If you start and work toward a goal, there is a chance you may just succeed. Like I always say, you have the power to shape your future.